Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Welcome.
Do you know who I am?
Who the hell are you?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
Just what is it that you want to do?
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
Okay, let's party.
Let me talk to you.
I'm building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome!
All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Now here's the other Alliance guys, Tim, Jeremy, and Dave.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. What can we tell you? We are 2/3 of the other Alliance guys, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information about the National Wrestling Alliance, the United Wrestling Network, Major League Wrestling, and various other wrestling organizations around the world. My name is Tim. That's Hudson up there showing you exactly what he thinks of our program so far, Dave. This is Dave Scooby. How has your week been, my friend?
It's been good so far. It's there. Just have to deal.
Just got to get past it, right?
Yep.
That's it. One more. How many more weeks till you hit the road?
About 3 more weeks.
3 more weeks. All right. Lots of time to pack. Well, lots of people in the chat already tonight. I'm waiting. I did see Willie's comment earlier, but if like 3 a.m, Willie, like I don't know what you're doing. It was like 2:53 a.m. There was a Rolando joke that I saw, but they disappear after a while in the chat we have in the control room sort of thing here. So I'm sorry I don't have it. If you want to put it up again. Willie has the CW app. I couldn't watch the matches in the NWA yesterday. Well, I don't. I'm not able to get the CW app at all, so I don't get the matches ever. So I understand. Matthew Underwood is here. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for being here. And Money Mike's here. Where is Money Mike? Here he is. JCP episode was good. That was the event near me and should be several episodes making up its season. However, I do not like the no promotion aspect of it. Nobody promoted it on Twitter. And no NWA, no JC, just saying the episode's up. Yeah, I noticed that too. What about you, Dave?
Well, it's one of these things of the NWA and any of its affiliated territories, they need to work together. And I know Joe does a good job in promoting his stuff, but it's his personal account. So they should maybe make a new Joe Kazana Promotions NWA Southeast and then have somebody actually promote what's going on, upcoming events and upcoming shows that will be featured on their YouTube channel.
I agree.
One of those things of it's growing pains, and it's somebody new within the NWA, even though they've been affiliated with them for the last 1.5 years or so. It's growing pains, and they just need to work together.
Yeah, Matthew Underwood saying that they did promote it. It actually has more views right now than the channel has subscribers. That's good. I mean, I didn't see a lot on it. We're going to cover it tonight. We watched it. Noob is here. Hey, Noob. Bet you're excited for Hard Times coming up. I don't mean a dig to the NWA with this. I won't be able to watch it, so I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm an international guy, so I'm not able to get in there and see it. But the point is taken. I like whether you feel it was promoted or it wasn't. Like there wasn't a big the NWA going, "Hey, tune in for the JCP this week on this date." You know, it's the show's dropping, and Exodus Pro is going to have their stuff up, by such and such a date, and you should be watching that and have a schedule. It was nice to see Kyle Davis kind of in the control room or whatever he used to call it. But I like more of that would be helpful, I think. But let's talk about it. We had a lot to get through tonight. We are missing Jeremy. He's down for the 2, but he will kick out before the 3. We're going to look at the UWN and the results that came out of the TV this week and some information we got there. We're going to look at Major League Wrestling and the card day for intimidation games, Chef's Kiss.
Oh yeah.
I don't watch WWE. It's been a long time, but sometimes I look at their cards and go, it's pretty good. Like I might buy Mania if it's Cody versus Roman Reigns, right? It's just a long time coming. It's an interesting story, but it's almost from top to bottom for intimidation games. It's every match I want to see.
And I mean they're building it the right way. They're letting it simmer. They're letting the stories get some feeling behind it. It's not just wrestler A against wrestler B, that there's an actual storyline of why WTF is battling the Second Gear Crew for the belts. That over the last 4 to 6 weeks, there's been fights amongst them, but there's never been a tag match. So they're building up things, and in doing so, that's how they tell their story. Now, the only thing I'm not really disappointed, but it's just they're making a pivot, and when they're doing the tapings before and after any premium live event or pay-per-view that they're doing, that used to be Fusion. Now it's a free special that's on YouTube or BN. So in roughly about 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, there'll be another one on YouTube. But we'll talk about that when we talk MLW. But I like what's happening. That it's not just let's have 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 matches to get everybody on. No, they're having multi-person matches. They're getting different people on screen, but they're, like I said, they're telling a good story, and it's making you want to watch. But they're giving it time. I think there's like 7 or 8 matches on intimidation games, which is good. It's still roughly over 2 hours, but it's not a burnout.
Right. I apologize for being so distracted since you're speaking. There was this noise that turned out to be Abdullah the Butcher just falling over from his own mass. And the cat here, he like sits up here. He's the shot behind the scenes. He was very concerned. So anyway, apologies. But yes, I love the way that they do stuff there. I get more and more into MLW every week, and I feel like part of our job has to, be saying, hey, beyond the NWA, we want you to look at MLW. We want you to be looking at UWN, like Championship Wrestling especially. But also, hey, we don't hate NWA. As much as disappointed I am in them currently, I don't feel like Joe Kazana Promotions should suffer. We had Joe on the big show. Jay and I got to interview him. Great guy, just fantastic guy. We had such a good time, and there were some really interesting things about his product. So in addition to UWN and MLW, we'll look at JCP Season 4, Episode 1, and then Dave's going to anchor this thing with some fantasy booking around something that we're talking about along the way, and whether or not the smaller promotions like the ones we just mentioned, just maybe they ought to drop kayfabe when it comes to title changes. But they're talking about Mike was talking about it in chat here a moment ago. We've had a couple of deaths, and one that has been reported first was Ole Anderson here See if I can get both of us in there on this thing. I guess not. No. Ole Anderson passed away at the age of 81. And yeah, 81. That's right. I was going to say, no, that's not right. Yes, it is. Ole passed away in his home, as I understand it, just a couple of days ago now. If you're not familiar with who Ole Anderson was, I mean, number one, he wrote this book, Inside Out, subtitled "How Corporate America Destroyed Professional Wrestling."
Yep.
Really a direct shot at the McMahons and the lifelong grudge that Ole had against them for the takeover of Georgia Championship Wrestling, and you know how he felt betrayed by the Briscoes. I happened to hear Jim Cornette and Brian Last this week, and Cornette said something about how he might be the only guy in wrestling history who both told Vince and his wife to fuck off, and on two separate occasions.
Wow.
In person in the boardroom. And Ole was described, I remember once, by Arn Anderson saying, you know, he said, paraphrasing, he's a tough, cranky, cantankerous old guy, and you know, you can look past that and find a tough, cranky, cantankerous old SOB. You know, that was who he was. Arn liked him. but really, Dave, an amazing figure in modern wrestling history.
Oh, yeah.
Original member of the Four Horsemen, promoter for GCW, one half of the legendary Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Yep.
Taking over for Lars to get with Gene. 14, yep. I counted 14 separate NWA championships along the way.
Wow.
A brief stint with WCW as in the booking office, and an author on top of it all, and basically a tell-all book in a time with Scott Teal, by the way, one of the best writers out there, in a time where there wasn't a tell-all book. Ole just said, "Here's what I got," and you know, I know he passed away. He was at home. He had 7 children with his partner, who survived him, and he had a really incredible life. Any memories or thoughts on Ole, Dave, you want to share?
Well, it's just one of these things of even I remember the original Four Horsemen, and it's one of these things of Arn always seemed to be like the level-headed one, even though he could get riled up easily. But when you look at it, Ole was always the old guy shouting at the clouds, even back then when he was young.
Yeah.
He always had something that perturbed him. And I remember you had to have just liked wrestling and not so much the character. But back then, it really wasn't a character. It was just, that's how he was.
Right.
But I mean, going back to the Minnesota Wrecking Crew and the Andersons, and then bringing in at that time kayfabe cousins and brothers, and I'm the uncle and this and this. Nowadays, kayfabe really isn't used. But back then, I mean, there were wrestlers, and I believe Ole was probably one of the wrestlers that would go to the grave denying that, oh, we worked together. I know some of the heels, and I know some of the faces, and when we're not in the ring, we sit around and drink together, or we have Sunday dinner, or we have this, or we have that. That he was truly a wrestler's wrestler and did not break kayfabe. And then when I found out that he had written the book, I was like, wow, that's that must have taken a lot of, at least in his mind, courage to step out from behind the curtain.
Yeah, this is a guy. Yeah, and he's a guy who across the board with that courage was just he would not accept a Hall of Fame WWE Hall of Fame recognition. He had wanted nothing to do with McMahon, and there was reported stories where McMahon said, Ole, it's done. Come and work for me. I want to give you a job, and he was just right here, buddy.
Yep.
From if that's the end of his career, that's the end of the career because
Wow.
he had some personal dignity and morals about it. But there's a story too, to your point about sticking to kayfabe, where he was a guy who just got it. Like he showed up getting the call. He started in the AWA. He got the call from Gene, I think, and showed up to work where he had been like Rock Rodkowski. His name was Alan Rodkowski, I think, in real life. And he showed up at the airport or the bus station or whatever, and kind of got in the car, and he said, "Okay, your name's Ole Anderson now." And he kind of went, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's your name." He said, "Okay," and he went with it because he trusted the people who he trusted, that he knew were going to be good. And there were some really nice outpourings out there. Ric Flair, who had gone head to head with Ole on a few occasions, said, he roped me into the business, and everything I am, I owe the beginnings of that to him. And Ricky Morton posted some nice stuff online in the last couple of days, and lots of other people. So a definite guy to be missed. Mike saying, I remember the first time meeting Ole. First autograph of him, we was all talking McMahon. Ole autographed it, I guess, to Mike. Fuck Vince McMahon. If I can't find it in my closet, I'm going to post a picture. Yeah, please do. Yeah, 3 Ole autographs. That's awesome.
Well, one of the things that if you know at least the history of the Four Horsemen, he was an original Four Horseman.
Yeah.
But you think about, okay, there's been probably 12, 13, 14 quote unquote Four Horsemen members. But if he would have decided to go against the grain, that the Four Horsemen, it basically happened organically. That they had said something about the Four Horsemen, and it stuck. And then the next week at tapings, there were signs in the crowd. Well, he was a big enough name when Flair and he and Arn all started, that he could have put the kibosh on it and just said no.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to look and go, okay, if something's getting over, let's go with it. We can always dump it if it doesn't work. But then you think about him stepping aside to let other members come in, him stepping aside and being a booker, that how many people, he may not have helped everybody, but if there were never a Four Horsemen, who knows where a lot of these wrestlers would have gone.
Yeah. Nobody gave him the book and watched him win a 60-man battle royal and have him beat Goldberg for the world title 2 weeks later. I mean, Kevin Nash. He was a guy who knew what was what. He'd tell you what was what. If it was shit, he wasn't going to put it on TV, or if you were garbage, he wasn't putting you on TV, and he'd tell you so. And that was I think that was the thing. Cantankerous guy. And I love the book. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Mike saying the angle with Ole's son was fucking great. Set him up big, got people invested in the Horseman. I want to say Bryant, was that his son? I'm trying to remember now.
I think it was Brian. Yeah.
Son was pushing him around that day. He would yell to son, "Asshole that way, not here." When Sting, Matthew Underwood says, got kicked out of the Horseman, it was Ole who did it as they turned heel again. Yeah, that sounds right, doesn't it? Like I think Luger succeeded Ole in the Horseman, and then Ole ended up coming back for a short period of time. Yeah, the whole Sting thing. Yeah, like you were a never horseman. Yeah, he was. So, yeah. Anyway, that was Ole, and you know, good memories. He was pretty much gone by the time I was about 16 from my wrestling life, but I'm glad I read the book, and condolences to his family and friends. We also heard, and I'm sorry I don't have a photo. Maybe I'll get one as we do that right now. The unfortunate death today of Virgil or Vincent, Michael Jones.
Michael Jones, Soul Train.
Also Shane, which was one of his gimmicks, which I had forgotten completely about. And Soul Train Jones originally. Michael Jones dying apparently peacefully at the age of 61. Too young. Passed away in his home, according to a wrestling referee Mark Charles III, known as the Count, in a Facebook post. We know that his health had deteriorated over the years. He had suffered a couple of strokes in the last couple of years ago, and it's said that he battled with dementia. And also there, was some talk about, excuse me, he may have had cancer at one point. It seems to be up in the air, but regardless, he has passed. And Virgil, who he was, I think, primarily to most of us, he was, to me, Dave, he was DiBiase's bodyguard and driver, and man's man, as they call it in England, right? For a long time in WWF, before eventually feuding with him and winning that $1 million championship. But the thing about that really surprised me about Virgil was that, he kind of got regulated, as you would expect, after that feud down the card. His memory serves, he ends up going to WCW and becoming Vincent. So we're in WWF, I guess. He had been Virgil, they say, as a rib on Dusty Rhodes for his real name. And then in WCW, they named him Vincent as a rib on Vince McMahon, where he was kind of the NWO bodyguard and jobber for a while. And then he was a bodyguard at one point. I'm not reading this. So for Creative Control, they called him Shane as a rib against Shane McMahon. And he ended up stretching out this career for about 20 years for a guy that you might think maybe would have lasted 5 or
his 15 minutes of fame when he finally turned on $1 Million Man, and he made the best of his 15 minutes, and it stretched out even though I mean, he'd show up and do signings and just be sitting behind a little table. And
yeah. Oh, that was part of the meme later that was developed, the sad Virgil, someone would take a picture of him being alone at a signing table. There's a lot of great stories online today about him trying to get money out of people. Wrestling Observer Live, which I listened on the way home today, was recounting some of those hilarious stories where, like, he would take a book from someone and say, "I'll give you, $30 and I'll sign it." And they'll say no, and he wouldn't give it back until you gave him $30. He hustled out there for his work, and I think Mike Seffervivi was the one saying it. Like, he might never have had 5-star or 4-star matches, but when you're in good shape and you're serviceable and you can play a role and you're willing to do what it takes to extend your career, 20 years is nothing to sneeze at, right?
No.
He did that thing. Did you ever remember that thing in the years that followed around, like, breadsticks and Olive Garden, and there was a game involved? Did you ever see that?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys in the chat remember it or not, but he did this whole thing about sauce. It's like vaguely coming back to me. I know he was Ted Jr.'s bodyguard for a little bit in WWE years later, and like, anyway, we're sad to hear of his loss as well to the wrestling community, and definitely bummer. Oh yeah, there you go. How dare you mention Olive Garden? Meat sauce. That's it. Like the meat sauce with the breadsticks. I don't know. The Ted Virgil feud was a mid-card creative highlight in the golden era, Matthew says. I agree. True Hustler, Mike says, people made fun of him for years for it, but he knew what he was doing, and he got his name out there, good or bad. 100%.
Yeah.
Meat sauce. There was a game, I'm telling you, there was like a Nintendo 8-bit style video game that you could play online as Virgil.
Wow.
Trying to get meat sauce. I don't know. Anyway. Listen, hey, let's talk about something else news-wise. MLW, man. So MLW, about just over a year ago, they sued the WWE with an antitrust lawsuit saying, that they had interfered with third-party arrangements that MLW had been trying to make, mostly around Vice TV. And they took him to court, and there was a settlement out of court for an undisclosed amount. And about a year later, I think in January of this year, like last month, or December, actually, I think of last year. And then in January, TKO, well, I guess in February, basically, a day or so ago, put out their results from like how well they had done as a publicly traded company for that period. And it showed that the WWE, to Dave's point, had paid $20 million to Court Bauer and MLW, which, kind of sounds like a pretty good deal, probably for both sides when you think about it.
Yeah.
But what is $20 million, do you think, even if you take away legal fees, call it 10 or 15, what does that do for a company the size of MLW?
Well, I'm not really sure if MLW has investors or if Court's doing this by himself, but they're shown on various television stations, networks throughout the world, just depending on what your location is. So, I mean, even if it's half of that, if it's $10 million, that will be able to help you bring in and help develop more talent. But it's one of these things of they're already at a certain level. They do very well production-wise. They for the past 2-3 years, probably about 70% of the time they were in Philadelphia.
Right.
But now they're expanding. They're going to be in Tampa. They're going to be in New York City. They're going to be here. They're going to be there. They're going to be a traveling company. And as long as they can take what has made them successful and continue it and make it almost the same, that depending on what the venue is like, if you're just focusing on entrance and what's happening in the ring, it can look the same at almost any venue.
Yeah.
You just have to have a plan of this is how it's set up and this is how we do it. And with the amount of money they got, it will help them either develop even more or bump them up even a little more. That MLW, I'd say probably you have your big two. You have WWE, AEW, then Impact. MLW is probably on the same level as GCW, but Game Changer just does pay-per-views. They just do live events. So I give the advantage to MLW with doing either recorded specials or television outside of pay-per-views. That it's one of these things. They're still doing tapings, and the others mainly do it live, with the exception of Impact. So until Impact decides to go live 24/7 and just do live shows, I'd say MLW is probably about the fourth in the United States.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty close if they're not. Yeah.
yeah. So it's just one of these things of this money can help them raise their stock and hopefully get more eyes on them.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, the production's already great.
Yeah.
And if you can land some talent with 20 million, I mean, fantastic. Matthew said Court should sell at this point. Because to kind of paraphrase that old wrestling joke, how does a promoter make $20 million? Start with 40 million, right? You're just gonna lose it all. That is big for them and not too bad for WWE or TKO, whatever you want to call them at this point. So we're going to run down intimidation games in a few minutes. I wanted to, because we said we would, and I maintain that we do not hold any grudges against the NWA talent at this point. I'm trying to talk carefully, Dave. But anyway, we did say we would talk about title changes. There was one on the show that I can't watch. Okay, I'm getting dark again. But there are new NWA World Women Tag Team Champions in the King Bees. Congratulations to them. Did you watch the match, Dave?
Yes, I did.
Traitor! No, I'm just kidding. Was it good?
For what it was, it's telling a story, and I believe they're going to have a rematch coming up. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm not really sure where they're going storyline wise, but I mean, we'll just have to take a wait and see approach. But it's always good when you have new talent hold a belt, even if it's for a short amount of time, even if they're quote unquote the transitional champion and It goes back to the previous champion. Right now, the NWA doesn't have very many, if any, actual tag teams. But hopefully it looks like they're building up some tag teams with the talent that they do have. And we'll see it at hard times if that plays into any of these female tag teams actually staying together and going after the new champions.
Right. A lot of good talent in the NWA women's division. Just doesn't seem to be a lot of what's the best way to say it? Not a lot of great booking around who they are and what's going on between them.
I mean, now with the new set of champions, this opens up several different tag teams to go after them.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. I mean, Kenzie as the holder of the Burke, we'll see where that story goes. The Page sisters are going on tour this summer. That they posted that, hey, we're jumping in a van and we're going to be gone for about 3 or 4 weeks. Hit us up if you want us to bring some eyes to your promotion.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with that.
I watched the pre-party today, and Jay was saying, who's the potential team to go after them here, or who's the the person to go after the Burke. And I think the easy answer is Natalia Markova. It's just the problem is that we've seen that fight. It feels like a half dozen times, and I think she's definitely worthy of having that title, and I'd like to see it happen. I'm sure Noob would as well, but the answer for me, Dave, is Ella Envy. I want. It shouldn't have to win that belt, but I want to see that match. I want to see that feud.
That more or less, it goes to we're all a happy family, but then when Ella thinks about it and goes, I have a chance to become the holder of the Burke.
Right.
I'm not just going to lay down.
Right.
And it's one of these things of, back in the day, it happened with friends and enemies. So it's one of these things that they need to decide what's going to happen, that with the belt being taken off of Pretty Empowered, it gives them a fresh a breath of fresh air.
Right. Yeah.
That we have a new tag champion team over here. What's going to happen with Pretty Empowered? Are the sisters going to blame it on Ella Envy, and could she possibly make a turn? She doesn't have to be a good girl, but she just doesn't have to deal with Pretty Empowered anymore.
Or take over Pretty Empowered and have Kenzie go the other way. However it works it out, make it happen.
Yep.
Matthew says the Hex baby. No, Matthew, no, off the couch. No. I like to each their own. I think Allison Kay did a great service to the NWA with her time as champion. She was solid, and then afterwards she did everything she needed to do on her way out by putting other people over. And I think that there's something in Marty Bell that needs to be set up as a single wrestler. Like I want to see Marty Bell come in and be Marty Bell, not be Batman and Robin, Allison Kay and Marty Bell, because that's what it always felt like to me. Mm-hmm. I want to see Marty Bell on her own. I don't want to see the Hex again. We've been there. Let's not go back to it. Listen, we're talking about title changes. I know we're going to do a little bit of UWN in a couple of minutes, but part of this hodgepodge, 2 title changes around the UWN, and we're not giving anything away.
Nope.
Before I jump to that, Noob says, Natalia Markova is the only option, either to put an NWA women's title on, or what's the point? No complaint. She's done her time. She's been an amazing asset to the NWA. Can't argue with you there, my friend. Or even the TV title to start. I don't care at this point. Put something on her just as a nice, shiny thank you, because she definitely has it coming. 2 title changes. One, so Danny Limelight went up to Ironheart. How do I do this? Here we go. No, that's not it. I've done something. Sure. to Ironheart Pro Wrestling, which is, it's funny because they haven't announced. I keep backing up on what I'm saying, but my problem with the UWN, to back up in the beginning, is that if you're talking about the NWA doesn't promote like the way they should, UWN's even further behind. I don't get the strategy. I don't think there is one. Championship Wrestling, you've got to find on the Memphis channel right now. Yeah. I thought Derby was coming back this week, and Derby showed Championship Wrestling's show. And we heard that Ironheart Pro Wrestling was joining the UWN, and then nothing. So what we know is that Danny Limelight went up to Ironheart Pro Wrestling. to defend to battle for the Ironheart Pro Wrestling Championship. I'll get it out eventually. And lo and behold, and new Ironheart Pro Wrestling Champion, the UWN World Champion, Danny Limelight. 2 belts, Danny. Danny, 2 belts, Dave. What do you think?
I mean, more power to him. United Wrestling Network is slowly building, but like you said, give us the information.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Let us know what's happening. It's one of these things that whether you think about it or not, we may put out 1 or 2, or we may retweet somebody saying something about, hey, it's the other Alliance guys, they're on Wednesday. But that doesn't mean that everybody is going to see it or hear about it.
Right.
So it's one of these things of promotion-wise, if you think you're promoting too much, double up, triple up on it, because I'd rather have people be sick about seeing, oh, the other Alliance guys. I keep seeing this. Well, maybe I may check it out one of these days. The more you can promote, it's only overkill when you feel you've hit the very top. That if you're making money hand over fist and you're selling out at every venue that any United Wrestling Network affiliate is at, that's when you take it to the next level. But if you're not selling out, or you're not having continuous people talk about you, push it. Keep pushing it. It's one of these things of, you never know how much you're going to promote something until it comes to making money off of it.
I could not agree more.
So it's one of these things of, we'll see where this goes. I can't say that I know much about their former champion, Dave Ali.
Yeah,
but I've heard of him, so I may have to look and watch and see. But I think in Danny winning the belt, they're going to try to either have him highlight it through their programming, or have some of their talent show up in Championship Wrestling.
Yeah,
which is always a win for both organizations.
Do Danny the favor. Danny Limelight, friend of the Alliance, friend of Jay Cal, and Matthew Underwood is saying, speaking of the UWN, when's Danny Limelight coming on? Steve G's here. Hey, Steve says, I think he's on this Sunday versus Pretty Peter Avalon. That's not what Matthew means, but yes, he is. Matthew is saying, when's Danny Limelight coming on the show? Well, Jay let it out of the bag, and that's okay because he's the one who set it up. Danny Limelight will be on this program with Scooby, with Jeremy, and myself next week.
Cool.
As we interview the UWN World Champion. We are excited to have him, and congratulations to Danny on his double title win. That's pretty cool. And we mentioned there were 2 title changes, and we're not letting anything out of the bag because it's already been announced even previous to the TV, this one that's coming up, Dave. The UWN said, here's a tweet, because we have a new UWN World Television Champion. That's right, Jack Banning, who on the program that we'll talk about this week, faced Honest John, a pretty good match on Championship Wrestling, has gone on to lose the title to none other than Zicky Dice, baby. Outlandish, Dave.
Yeah.
Outlandish. Zicky Dice takes the World Television Championship. I was surprised that they let it out. Hell of a promo by Zicky if you go on Twitter, though.
And who knows where they're going? I mean, it's one of these things of banning to me was building up something, but then when he's like talking and he's like, okay, hey guys, you need to go your separate ways. We've done this, we've done this. I'm hoping this just builds up more characters in championship wrestling. And I mean, Ziggy, if he's able to defend it and go to Derby City or go to Memphis or even head to Iron State, more power to them. That if they can use these belts and defend them in their quote unquote UWN territories, it just makes them bigger and better.
Right. Absolutely. And I think Danny needs to travel around for the UWN and also for Danny. In fact, Danny this week, when he had that pretty cool promo, was saying, you know, I fought all over. I fought Tom Lawler. I went here and I did, you know, I went to Puerto Rico and, you know, I did it for this title, for this company, and also for me. And I think that's important for his character and his development. Zicky Dice, baby. Great promo. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, he's like clearly just backstage. He's got the belt, and it's about 30 seconds long. And it's Zicky Dice in the, I don't know, like, he's not outlandish in it. He's not licking the title, so to speak, like he did in the NWA.
I'm just like
down and dirty, right? It was just, I lost everything. He doesn't tell you what. But you get the sense with Zicky in his regular posts, he's had some troubles. And, you know, I lost everything, and now I just won everything, and you're going to see what I'm all about, and it's very cool. Zicky Dice is television. Yes, Tim, hell of a promo. NWA should have brought him back full time. Probably, well, I can't say probably. I don't know anything, but maybe. I'm glad he came back at all after, you know, I kind of pictured it back in the pandemic. Like, if anybody wants their release, put your hand up, and Zicky going, thank you, you know, as NWA TV champion at the time. But anyway, maybe there was a better opportunity for him at UWN. So congratulations to him. A few more things before we get off the roundtable. We want to talk about, well, one of them was Danny Limelight's coming on this program next week. Super, super excited to meet and speak with Danny. Get all your questions for the UWN World Champion, the Ironheart Pro Heavyweight Champion, you know, leader of the Bodega. We've had Papo Esco, and Jay has. He's also had, no, I don't think he's had Slice. No, I was thinking of Bad Dude Tito. Yeah, that'll be great. A couple of things for those of you in the chat right now. Just if you're listening in the background, pay attention for like the next 60 seconds because this is going to be important. We started this down here underneath my ugly face. There's this @Toeg live stream on X or Twitter. We started our own account so that, you know, Dave can do music stuff and I can do belt stuff on our regular account, so we can kind of tweet from here. It's really hard to get a Twitter account off the ground. So if you guys can give us a hand, that would be great. And as an incentive for that, I have this thing right here. I brought it so you can see how big this bad boy is. It's Blue Demon print that I got a couple of years ago. I love it. It's amazing. It's been on the wall for a long time, and I'm not sad to see it go. There's just, you know, I don't have a place for it anymore. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to auction this thing off. It's not going to be a raffle where you just like and subscribe, but that's going to be part of it. This thing was worth about, I'm thinking in US dollars, probably about $220 US right now. I will ship it to you, but we will auction it off on the Toeg live stream account with all of the proceeds for it going to combat juvenile diabetes. And I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll probably run this for 2 or 3 weeks soon, and I urge you guys to to kind of make offers as we go. Wait for the post, but please follow us at Toeg Livestream on Twitter or X, and we'll get this thing raffled off. Also, I guess it won't be next week, but the week after, I'm going to start a 5-minute tops segment of my own that I am calling Booked, which are reviews of books on professional wrestling. This is something I a couple of years ago I thought up for when I was Alliance Gold. I thought might kind of branch out, and it just fits so much better with us in the Alliance, with Jay's group and our friends and everything here. I'm going to look at some really cool books that hopefully you haven't even heard of or thought, oh man, like I don't have a copy of that. None of these are WWE biographies or any of the sanitized books. They'll include things like Inside Out from Ole Anderson. We're going to do Vinnie Berry was on 2 weeks ago. There is Wrestleville. These are just a few of them here. Len Denton's Grappler, we're going to review. Hey, Willie, if you're out there, man, Chris Candido, I heard you yesterday, Willie. I heard you say he was a worse world champion than Tyrus. I will fight you, Willie. I'm sure you will take me, Willie, but that's regardless. An amazing book by his brother Johnny, who also wrestled. But I mean, not to waste everyone's time, but some of the ones that we're going to look at. J.J. Dillon's book, Wrestlers Are Like Seagulls, From McMahon to McMahon. One of my favorite books of all time, Hooker, the Lou Thez autobiography, which you wouldn't believe some of the stuff in there. Tim Hornbaker books, I got them coming out the wazoo. That's the history of the NWA. Blood and Fire from Brian Solomon, the story of the original Sheik. There's about 200 books in the library over here that are wrestling related. I'm going to start it off in a couple of weeks with one of my favorite autobiographies of all time, Adventures in Larryland, by Larry Zabisco, which is such a fun sit down and read it in a weekend kind of book. I may pre-tape these things so that we don't have to spend too much time and I can just bulldoze through them. But it's something I wanted to do for a long time and I can't think of a better way to do it. So when these books are over and done with, as the weeks go on in the months ahead, I mean, there will be some that I'm not going to give away, like Hooker by Lou Thez. Okay, I don't know if you can get that these days or not, but I am going to give away most of the books after I review them on the site, or on the show rather. And then I'm going to say, hey, on our live stream, we'll have a raffle for the book. If you want it, you'll retweet, whatever, and I'll send you the book. And my library will become smaller, and I'll buy more books. So there you go. So I want to let you guys know that. Yeah, so it'd be a good cause for juvenile diabetes, and also for both of these teams. Hopefully, will help promote the Twitter account for us here. Let's see what's going on here. Tim, I still have the puck and the beanie. I wore the beanie last week. Actually, I think I forgot to tell you I got it. So there you go. That's awesome. Mike won something a long time ago. He won a Bret Hart signed Calgary Hitman puck that I sent him. The Candido book is great as well as the Rip Rogers book. Yeah, I that'll be one of them, and I'll put that up for as a prize as well. That's a fun book. So thanks for bearing with me on that for everybody who's watching, and stay tuned for that. You know what? He's not here right now, but we love our missing brother in pod. Let's go into the UWN with a salute to Championship Wrestling from Jared.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The following is a presentation of the United Wrestling Network. It's time for championship wrestling from Jeremy.
Well, Jeremy's not here, so it's championship wrestling from Scooby and Tim. St. Timothy at it again. What a mensch. Lou. We gotta sit down behind the arena, buddy, and drink a bottle of whiskey. $300 bottle. Did I ever tell you this story? Oh, you were there. Doesn't matter. Lou was amazing. Championship wrestling. February 25th was when the show came out. Scoob.
Okay.
We did get some results. And it's funny because some of the results that I find online go into shows that haven't spoiled yet. So I had to check it, and stop me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going to kind of, Jeremy has all of this stuff, right? So I'm kind of going through it from this past week. It ended up being, which I think is episode 2. Johnny LaQuasto introducing Danny Limelight. Talks about being UWN world champion for 400 days. Says he's been all over. Wonders who's next for him with the Red Carpet Rumble coming up. If Jeremy's watching, or Lamb, when is the Red Carpet Rumble?
It's coming up.
But when? Slice Boogie comes out, and man, Dave, if the hiatus for UWN has done anything for the talent that kind of rested or did their own thing during the hiatus, it is the physical changes in the bodies that Slice Boogie, Jack Banning, Honest John looks like he's been pumping iron like crazy. He was always in great shape, but Slice Boogie, he looks like $1 million. He looks like he's ready for the limelight, pun intended, right?
Yep.
He says he wants his title shot as the winner of the Golden Ticket tournament. And Johnny LaQuasto says, well, you'll get your shot, but Limelight's going to face Pretty Peter Avalon. And Avalon comes out and said to Boogie, when I win it from him, I'll defend it against you. 4 matches on the card. And I'm speaking slowly because I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, if I remember it correctly, Dave. We had Mikey O'Shea, who's been on the show with Jay, I think, before. Defeating Evan Daniels in the opener. What did you think of this? Did you watch the show?
I watched it in the background. I'm planning on rewatching it, but I mean, just by story wise, they're taking their time, and I mean this was a good start off match. But I do like how they're actually making it storyline driven.
Right.
That a win means something. And I mean, just like when they're not ignoring what's happening, just like when Pretty Peter Avalon came out and said, well, I'm going against Limelight, and if I win, you won the chance to go against the champion. I'll give you that title shot. That they're not just assuming that you'll connect the dots yourself. They're keeping it simple, but they're explaining it in a way that makes sense. They're making it make sense.
Yep.
And that's all I ask of basically any programming, unless there's going to be a huge payoff down the line and they don't want us to know about anything. Just give us enough information so we understand what's happening.
Right.
So we can fill in the blanks if need be.
Yep, as you say, couldn't agree more. We had Daniel Hill on the show 2 weeks ago, and you know, as Matthew Underwood said, he's fully in on UWN because it's like, what did he say here? UWN is like NWA in the 80s or something like so. It was, I can't find it, but it's like the way NWA kind of used to be,
Yep.
and TV wise, and it's very easy to get into. We had, and we can kind of go through it pretty quick with EJ Sparks, who's an amazing talent, defeat Cameron Gates, and Cameron Gates is funny. I forget what his moniker is. It's like perfectly serviceable Cameron Gates or something hilarious like that, like Mr. Mediocre or something. Like it's a name. I'll have to look it up. But EJ Sparks, he was, when Arizona was running, he was big there, and hopefully doesn't get lost in California and rises to the top because what a talent.
Oh yeah, he's one of these wrestlers that the way he wrestles, he can adapt to almost any style. He's a high flyer himself, but he can get down and dirty if need be. But whoever he wrestles with, he makes them look good, even if he defeats them. It's not all about him.
Right.
It's great to get a win, but you have to make that win look credible.
Right.
And he's one of those wrestlers that whether he wins or loses, he always looks good in whatever match he's in.
Right. And Cameron Gates, like he's a good wrestler who as well, and he's one of those guys that you see in this particular spot, and always fun to see. Then we saw El Primohinia Tribeca, right, defeat Jay Tino. It was a pretty quick match, but I liked it. He is an excellent wrestler. Well, actually, both of them were pretty good in this match. I wasn't familiar with Tino, but Primohinia is a great talent. And then we saw I think this was the final match, was Jack Banning defending the UWN World Television title against Honest John. And what I liked about this particular match was that John had a really good showing.
Oh yeah.
And he looks better every time I see him. And when we talked to Daniel Hill about the UWN a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, can someone please just give some love down there to Honest John, because he's such a great talent. He really has put a lot of work into his his physique, and clearly he's come a long way. And I thought Banning made him look like $1 million.
Yeah.
And that was important. So Derby City didn't run anything this week, so I'm not sure when that return date is. Jeremy, if you're out there, I think he's just shutting down for the night, but give us that date particularly. Memphis wrestling is is something that we currently don't spend a lot of time on. I know Jeremy is looking at it as sort of a match of the week kind of thing this week. Did you watch Memphis this week, Dave?
No, I did not. It's one of those that I just have a hard time watching.
Yeah.
And rather than try and sit through it and weather the storm, if Jeremy has something good to say about a match, I'll go back and try to watch that match. But they've sort of gone outside of the lane that they used to be in, that they just need to sit down and figure out what their destination is and figure out a way to get there the simplest way, and just tell a good story. Just give me a good story and give me some good matches that keep that story going. But it's just, for me, it's too much.
They've got some talent. It's not like they're without anything down there.
Oh yeah.
They
have some good talent. They just need to figure out the best way to use that talent and highlight the talent, it doesn't always mean that, oh, the gun show, he's a big guy, so he never loses. Well, every once in a while, you need to shake things up. And it may not be that he loses the title, but it may be one of these things of you always look back at the upset of the 1-2-3 Kid going against Razor. That every once in a while you got to just shake things up, whether it's for a belt or not. So don't just always use the idea of, oh, everything's predictable. Sometimes you got to just take that Etch-a-Sketch, shake it up, and start over again.
I feel like they have, the genetic nightmare, Mike Anthony. They have K Tumor. They had Big Ben Bishop. He won that Cobra Cup, and then, down in flames to the gun show. Yep. They all go down in flames to the gun show. And I feel like Memphis has a Hulk Hogan on their hands that I'm tired of right now. And no disrespect to Brett Michaels, I think his name is, right? Like the guy from Poison.
Yep.
The gun show. But I just can't see everyone go down in flames to the gun show for a year and want to keep watching. You got Tim Bosby, a great young kid with the internet championship, and there's some work to be done down in Memphis, and it has been better. And we hope it does continue to improve, but we'll talk about more of that next week.
Okay.
All right, man. Let's get into this Intimidation Games, MLW. This is happening, I want to say tomorrow night.
Yes.
Intimidation Games 2024 with some. I can tell you that AJ Francis, or Top Dollar as he used to be.
Top Dollar. Yep.
On this Leap Day show will be at Intimidation Games, which is in New York City at the Melrose Ballroom. Have you been there, Dave?
No, I have not. And I was looking forward to possibly just taking off work and going, but now I have some business that I have to take care of, so I won't be able to hit this show.
That's too bad. Janai Kai, the kick demon, the welterweight champion, will also be in action, although I don't think it's been announced against who.
No, both of those, it's just to be announced. And right. We'll see what happens. They don't disappoint very often, so it's one of these things that they're doing a pretty good job. That I usually give them at least a 75% thumbs up, most of it. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing these matches.
So there's 6 matches on this card announced, plus whoever Kanai fights, and there's a taping as well to follow. But this is kind of how they've set up the opener for the first match. It's the Calling. It's the Sami Callihan, the Death Machine, and Ricky Shane Page versus Akira and Jake Christ. The backstory here you've told me about before, but sum it up for those people watching right now.
Well, Akira was part of the Calling, and they had a falling out. And storyline wise, at their last pay-per-view, Raven, who is the leader of the Calling, came out and basically turned on the Calling, having a kendo stick, and proceeded to beat the hell out of
his own group.
His own group. So now it's Jake Christ and Akira have basically teamed up. And like I've said before, MLW is about warfare, but it's group warfare. So I look for maybe 1 or 2 other people to possibly join. But the Calling, it's basically bad guys against good guys, and we'll see where it goes. That Akira was turned face by default, and he really doesn't play a face, but it depends on who he's wrestling. And going up against Sammy Callahan, Death Machine, and Ricky Shane Page, they're both basically hardcore wrestlers.
Right.
So this is going to be a New York street fight. Basically anything goes. So we'll see what happens with this one.
It's a fun way to open a show.
Oh, yeah.
If this is the order, that's what I'm pulling it from the site. You got Second Gear Crew defending the World Tag Team titles. That's one called Manders and oh my God,
Matthew Justice.
Matthew Justice, thank you.
Yes.
Against one of my favorite professional wrestlers of the current day, Filthy Tom Lawler, Davey Boy Smith Jr., promoted by St. Laurent. That's awesome. I love how that's written. And they're of the WTF, the World Titan Federation.
Yep.
Give us a rundown of that one.
Basically, this is for the MLW World Tag Team titles. And in the past, I like how they work things. They'll have singles matches, even though it is a tag team. Second Gear Crew has gone up against the World Titan Federation in singles matches, and now it's coming to a head. That this is for the championship, and I could see it possibly changing hands due to the fact that the Second Gear Crew isn't always seeing eye to eye. Plus, I mean, Good Brother number 3 is nowhere to be found.
Right.
So maybe it's time for a change. That they have enough tag teams that they're building up that they can basically hot potato the belt back and forth to give enough of these teams a rub, and then go back and start at point A again. That, okay, if it doesn't work out, they can always go back and start again. But they're telling good storylines with this, and right now, I wouldn't mind seeing the Calling have the belts, because then that gives Akira or WTF having the belts. That would then give the Calling a way to go after. That you have the Calling as a tag team. You can set up Bombay Fight Club, because Alex Kane is no longer champion, so he and Mr. Thomas can tag up. That they're setting up several different tag teams to go after the belts. And with new tag champions, there's always new challengers. So,
yeah,
I mean, we'll see where this goes.
You know, one of the things I liked when I was looking at the tapings things about who's going to be fighting is that, you know, there's a match later with Alex Kane, and he's with seconded by Mr. Thomas. And then the tapings, there is a Mr. Thomas match where he's seconded by Alex Kane. I thought that was very cool. One of the ones that come up next, guys, it is a New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television title fight between Matt Riddle and Big Bad Tito, or as we all from the UWN and elsewhere know him better as, why am I now blanking? Big Bad Tito, sorry, Bad Boy.
Bad Dude Tito.
Bad Dude Tito, God.
Wolf Zaddies. Yes.
From the Wolf Zaddies, or the Mighty Don't Kneel. UWN World Tag Team Champion right now. So Matt Riddle, as part of the deal, Dave, with MLW and New Japan kind of, you know, getting along, although there was some CMLL problems, I guess I heard about earlier today. Part of that whole, you know, exchange, you got Matt Riddle defending the NJPW World Television title against Tito. What do you think?
This is going to be in my opinion, a banger of a match. It's going to be different styles. That you have your MMA fighter that does submission, but I mean, Bad Dude Tito, he's also part of New Japan as well. So it's going to be I'd say a battle. I don't see a title change taking place, but this also carries over to New Japan as well.
Right. Be tremendous if there was a title change, but it could happen there too.
So I mean, it could happen in MLW. It could happen at New Japan in LA, or actual New Japan Professional Wrestling over in Japan.
Right.
So it's one of these things that they're bringing in, I think, the right person. It may not be that when people were like, oh, well, they're bringing in a New Japan person. Well, that doesn't always mean that that person is Japanese or from Japan itself. So this is one of these things that they're good at telling stories. Plus, if everybody's playing or basically looking on the same page and reading off of out of the same book, that it can happen, like I said, it can happen in California at the New Japan Dojo. It can happen over in Japan, wherever MLW has title matches. And as long as Riddle is willing to defend it and they have a working relationship, there's several different companies that this type of match can happen. And all that does is expand the reach of MLW.
Right.
So I'm looking at it as it's a win for everybody, being that I don't think Bad Dude Tito has ever dealt with Major League Wrestling before. He's never been, it's a new promotion for him. I'd love to see him or the Wolf Zaddies be brought in as a tag team.
Yeah, absolutely. His star is just shooting up tremendously now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't see a title change, but this is expanding the relationship that MLW has with CMLL and New Japan. So it's a win in my book, no matter what happens. But I think Riddle retains. And I mean, if anything, it just gives a shine to the belt, to Riddle, but also Bad Dude Tito. His stock rises in being featured on another promotion.
I'm going to have trouble going between Big Bad Tito and Bad Dude Tito. I know I'm going to trip myself up 17 more times before I finally get it right. I don't know why I can't separate the two in my mouth.
Yeah.
You know, the only reason this next match is third from the bottom is because it isn't a title match. Dave, Alex Kane, cornered by Mr. Thomas, your former MLW World Heavyweight Champion, takes on Bobby Fish. Just because Styles makes fights, Dave. What do you think?
I mean, you said it. I mean, we haven't seen Bobby Fish in MLW in quite a while. So Bobby Fish hasn't seemed to click wherever he's landed. So I'm hoping that he's able to fit in. And I'm thinking that something hinky is going to happen. That there's just going to be outside interference one way or another, or that there's going to be dirty games. So I don't know what's going to happen. Alex Kane will have Mr. Thomas in his corner, but I don't know. I have a feeling that they're not going to give the win to either person, that it's going to be a disqualification of some kind due to outside interference, that this will be a storyline that they can build up. And who knows? Maybe Bobby Fish finds somebody that can help him, and he and his group end up battling the Bombier Fight Club. So who knows? We'll see.
You know, if you go to MLW's roster page on their website, they've got guys who like, I haven't seen a couple of these guys in a while, and you forget that because they move around between the talent. Like they have no shortage of talent there. Timothy Thatcher's on their page still.
Yep.
I mean, oh my God, Richard Holiday. Like probably arguably the hottest free agent right now on the independent scene, right? It's incredible. I don't think they're on this particular card, but look at this. It's the world middleweight title fight with Cesar Duran fronting Mystico. What a talent. Rocky Romero being presented by, because she presents, she doesn't manage, Serena De La Renta of, what's the name of her group? Promotions. Anyway, she's this is interesting. It's an interesting story. And, Rocky Romero's everywhere.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that I could see a possible title change, being that they're pushing Mystico and Caesar's back with basically his Azteca Underground, the Lucha Underground group. He's bringing in several wrestlers that will be used at the event and during the tapings before and after. But Rocky just ended up being signed as a liaison in AEW. So he's being used in AEW as well for CMLL. So I could see him coming in, and that's the thing about the groups, that they have members, but they're not always present. So he can float, and if he needs to work AEW for a while to get things going, he can always come back. But if he loses, this pushes Mystico with a title belt, and that it keeps the story going with Serena and Cesar. So it's one of these things that Mystico, who was Sin Cara back in WWE, he has it. The crowd goes wild for him. The only thing that I could see better is if he and Ichiban would end up as a tag team. And who knows, down the line they may. But I could see a title change with Rocky going to AEW for a while. But as long as everybody plays nice, I love seeing Rocky Romero in a MLW ring.
Yeah, if you're smelling a title change anywhere on this card, it's probably right here.
Yeah.
With this one. So there is a main event. I don't smell a title change here, but I do smell something I wish I should just drive to New York City and watch. The main event by the way, this is available on Fight Guys or Triller, or whatever it's called now, right?
Yeah.
So just look, tune in, man, because here's your main event right now. It is the World Heavyweight title fight for Satoshi Kojima defending against the murder grandpa himself, Minoru Suzuki. You know that there's going to be one of those standing chop nonsense things that they do, but that's his bag, man. And he's just, how old is he now? Like 106? It's amazing.
It's one of these things that one of the reasons I liked going to see MLW is they're bringing in all this Japanese talent. And if you're not used to seeing them, they just go full force. But this will be a match of, in my eyes, Japanese strong style. That they're not going to be doing crap wrestling.
Right.
That when they get in the ring, they give 110%. They do what needs to be done to tell a story. And I mean, while Suzuki has the name recognition here in the United States as well, I don't see them taking the belt off Kojima anytime soon until they build up another story. And it's one of these things of there's several wrestlers that could go after that title. But this is just going to be a battle that they're actually putting the World Heavyweight Championship on the line, and it's being defended by worldly wrestlers. It's a Japanese wrestlers that are actually wrestling here in the United States and defending a world title. So
Right.
they're making it mean something. Now, this is the second reign for Kojima. He was, I believe, the first champion for MLW. I don't see him with a long title reign, but they're upping the value of the belt, and whoever wins it next is going to be made. But this is one of those things that they're having this match, and there's several wrestlers that we haven't mentioned. That, okay, Jacob Fatu is no longer there, but who took out Jacob Fatu?
Yep.
Cruel. Mads Cruel Kruger
Right.
is nowhere to be found. He's not mentioned at all. Richard Holiday, not mentioned at all. There's a couple matches that are going to be set up, that there's a to be announced, that there's for the featherweight title, Janai Kai, there's no female wrestler going against her. We'll find out that night.
Right.
So it's one of those things of we'll have to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to it. They always seem to tell a good story.
Right.
And with this, I mean, they have 7 or 8 strong matches right there. And I like that they limit it to 7 or 8 matches. They don't try to get everybody on the show. They do a good job of letting the stories breathe, giving the talent time to tell a story, and they make it mean something.
Right. It's funny because, I heard a friend of mine said yesterday, like, well, nobody lays in the chops like Suzuki. I think there's a couple of people who do. But actually, I apologize to him in absentia. He's like 2 years older than me. So he's 55. So I thought he was older. So there you go. But anyway, wow. I'll Thursday nights I do something, but I'll be watching the replay on this well into Friday morning. I think that's incredible. Gunther comes to mind for chops, but
yeah,
I did hear something yesterday where somebody asked Gunther, "What's the hardest chop you ever took?" And he says it's Pentagon Junior.
Wow.
Of all people, he said he chopped me once and I started bleeding instantly, and I said, "What the hell's going on here?" Like, he just hit harder than anybody he's ever met before. Anyway, but that is MLW. Excited?
I'm very excited. I'm disappointed I won't be able to be there live, but I mean, all good things come to an end, and it's one of these things that I'm actually willing to spend money to watch.
Right.
So I mean,
I hear there's a 24-hour flu going around that might be headed down your way, like for tomorrow, during the day or Friday, just I can't make it into work.
Yep.
Should consider that. Anyway. All right, listen, let's get into we're at the 1 hour 30-minute mark. I thought we were way past that. That's great. Let's talk about NWA JCP Southeast Season 4 Episode 1 review. Well, this started with the Christmas time announcement, I believe, of Billy Corgan and Joe Galley welcoming the crowd in Coalfield, Tennessee. They bring out Joe Kazana, officially at that time had made it NWA JCP. And it was a feel-good moment. And I thought, like, this is my first time watching extensively a program of JCP, and I thought, oh, the sound quality in this arena is so bad. But then, of course, I realized, wait a minute, this is back from Christmas time, So it was funny because Billy Corgan said, "I'm taking a shot at you now, Mr. Corgan. The NWA is bringing back real professional wrestling to the world." Well, to the United States, maybe. Anyway, that's my dig at the NWA here. But we go right into, from away from those bad acoustics into a great intro package, Dave. JCP's got a great intro package. And I thought, wow, like they've put some oomph into this opening package here, and as we'll see on the show, the camera production value is really great.
Yeah,
and especially for the level we're talking about right here, and the audio was fantastic. Okay, I was super impressed. It makes me want to continue to watch as the show goes along. I would say though that, like, you've got Dr. Tom and you've got Joe Kazana and Dan Matthews on the announce table. I thought there was a lot of dead air.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just something that needs to be worked on. What did you think of the production value and the sound and all that?
Well, it's one of these things of you can always improve, but for watching it for a first time viewer, it's not bad. It's like you said, the commentary was lacking a bit.
Yeah.
With the 3-person booth, they should be able to not talk over each other, but not have silence. So, right. That if Dr. Tom's talking about something, he's a wrestler. He knows what's going on. Same thing with Joe. He's a wrestler. He knows what's going on in the ring. Talk these things up, and even if it's little yeses and nos and, oh, I agree with that. I agree with you. Or, oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah. Make us. So it's one of these things of they can always improve, but I mean, I thought it was good for what it was.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I know we're going to be talking. We often talk about NWA with all respect as AAA ball, which is great ball, just where it sits on the list of the big time promotions and the smaller ones beneath, and obviously, the JCP's is a territory sub for the NWA, primo for that level. So really, really great. Our first match, Jeremiah Plunkett, friend of the Alliance, coming out. He's working heel versus a local boy named Andy Optimal. Roxy on the mic, Dave. Roxy as the ring announcer. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I was like,
Wow.
So either she's decided to not wrestle anymore, or she may be injured. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was good seeing a familiar face.
I agree. Optimal, he's a clearly young talent, needs some conditioning.
Yeah.
But this is how it starts, right? A few too many rest holds for me. The story here I thought was experience versus they kind of try to sell it as experience versus speed, but I don't know if Andy was all that fast. Like, he wasn't exactly a luchador. Like I said, Plunky's playing heel. Dave, there was a spot, again, I chalk it up to lack of experience where Andy's laying in the chops, and they were awful. They were short. They were like this, like from that distance.
Yeah.
I would stand there and take those chops, and I'm a wuss.
Well, I mean, I know they're wanting to get wrestlers experience, and I mean, putting somebody in with Plunkett knows how to make a match mean something.
Right.
So in my eyes, this could have been a 2-minute squash match.
Right.
But they're going to give them a little more experience, give you a little bang for your buck. Overall, I thought it was okay, but you don't know what needs to be worked on until you actually see it. So this is one of those things that Dr. Tom's there watching it, Joe's there watching it. They'll be like, okay, Plunkett, you could have helped him along by doing this.
Right.
Or, hey, Andy, you need to work on this. Make this more believable.
Right. And Plunky's a coach too. So
don't just take a hit and then jump back up. Sell it a little.
Right.
So while it could have been, like I said, a squash, it was a okay to decent match. But I put that on Plunkett knowing what to do. And Andy, as a newer wrestler, just needs to work with your opponents.
Right.
And just go. Plunky looked like he was in a lot better shape.
Yeah, he's been working hard.
And I mean, it's one of these things of I'm glad to see him wrestling for Joe, and I know he was also working up in Exodus Pro as well. So I'm hoping to see more of Plunkett, whether it be on NWA or in the territories.
Right. Agreed. Plunky gets the win by hot-shotting Andy sort of over the turnbuckle and into the ring post. Serviceable opener, I think, to your point. Hey, Dubby, if you're watching, I drink a lot of Gatorade, but Gatorade don't pay. Don't pay. I think I'm on my third now. Kyle Davis promotes the show that we're already watching. To Mike's point in the chat, Media Mike, promote the show outside of the show. Put Kyle Davis's control center, hey, you got to watch Joe Kazana Promotions thing out on YouTube. Put it out there so people can come and watch this.
Yep.
I never understood when you go to the theater, you watch a movie, and then there's an ad for the theater that you're in. Why are you advertising to me? I'm already here.
Yep. and I mean, it could be an easy 30-second promotion of, we hope you're enjoying the show. Make sure to catch Joe Kazana Promotions territory of the National Wrestling Alliance right here on our YouTube channel, where you can see stars featured in the NWA, including, and then name a couple.
Right.
That Silas Mason, the Thrillbilly, is part of Joe Kazana Promotions. He's a title holder. So promote your title holders. And I mean, looking ahead, I mean, they have the Heat Seekers there. And while the Heat Seekers may not be high on the list of NWA talent right now, they're former NWA tag champs.
Yeah.
They're current champions in JCP. So it's build on what you have and do like you said, do some cross promotion of, hey, you can see these stars in the NWA, and when we have our next event here at Joe Kazana Promotions, it's your chance to see, maybe drop one or two names.
Right. Yeah, Thrillbilly Silas Mason comes to mind.
Yep.
We had a promo spot before the actual match that they're in, which is fine, but weird. Bruiser Bob and Maine Moxie, who we will come to know as the Weaver and the Pain. Worst tag team name ever? I don't know, possibly. They come out and they do a quick promo about how they're facing the Heat Seekers for the NWA JCP Southeast Tag Team Championship. So that's fine, I guess. So the match starts right away, basically.
Yeah.
The Heat Seekers come out first, which is different for as champions, but they demand that the crowd stand up and give respect to the greatest the greatest tag team on the independent circuit. Gotta say, hard to argue in a way. They're certainly in that conversation. They have been for a long time. And then the Weaver and the Pain are the name of the two guys. I don't know, Dave. You're the music guy. Can you play Running with the Devil as long as they did and not play royalties on YouTube?
I don't know. I mean, you're taking a chance at getting a strike on YouTube, but if it's, I don't know if you're paying royalties or not. I was always able to get away with things that whenever we did anything that was taped, whether it be an MMA fight, I would speed up the song enough that you could recognize the song, but it wasn't the original recording. Or I would say you have 45 seconds because after a minute, we start getting tagged on stuff.
Right.
So you can have 45 seconds to get out there. I'm going to push this and we'll go. The only other thing that I used to do is if I couldn't play the original song, I'd play the karaoke version, which didn't have the words.
Right.
So it was recognizable, but it wasn't, you weren't taking a strike against it and having to pay royalty fees.
Just as a adjacent aside to that song, which by the way is a pretty good tag team opener. Like they timed Coming Through the Curtain perfectly, at the beginning of the song. It works. Did you ever hear the terrible David Lee Roth acoustic version, Strumming with the Devil?
Can't say I have and don't think I will.
Next time you're wanting to hurt yourself badly, look it up. Strumming with the Devil, buddy. David Lee Roth.
Strumming with the Devil, okay.
Acoustic album. Where were we? Moxie and Sigmund. There's some good technical wrestling for the first several minutes. For me, Dave, there was some work to be done on Bruiser Bob, some sloppy early maneuvers. But again, I try to, this is where we are. Still, you didn't like him either? No. Russell hits Sigmund with a botch move at one point. Not a fan of that. They're the goddamn Heat Seekers. They're the NWA World Tag Team Champions. They don't hit each other with botched moves. There's also one later in the show which frankly looked cool, but again, don't do this to the Heat Seekers. Heat Seekers don't allow this to happen to yourself. Where Russell DDTs Sigmund later in the match by accident.
Yeah.
Lots of tags by Weaver and Payne. I found them to be serviceable, but after a really solid showing, I got to give them credit to the Heat Seekers as well for that. They lose control of the match. The Heat Seekers. There's a springboard moonsault to the outside by Moxie, who was the more experienced and flowing of the two. He hits a crossbody from the top on Elliot Russell, who kicks out. Then they do a hot shot, power slam, and a diving headbutt combo that they like to finish people off with by Sigmund. The Heat Seekers retained. End of the show. What'd you think of the match?
I mean, it wasn't a bad match. It just seemed to go on and on and on, that it could have been tightened up for maybe cut 1 or 2 minutes out. And this is one of those things. I wasn't there to actually see how long the whole show was. Now they're splitting it up, and I guess they're doing 3 or 4 shows out of this.
Yeah.
So 2-hour show. It was roughly about
35 minutes. Yeah.
35 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but this is one of those things that if you're going to do matches and then split it up for quote unquote a TV show,
Right.
That if you're going to have it as a 30-minute wrestling show, that's fine. But only 2 matches. I would have had a couple more, maybe interview for an upcoming match next week. Or even if they do a 2-minute squash match.
Right.
Give you 3 matches in 30 minutes. It seems a little more valuable than, hey, we'll do 2 matches and one of them was an okay match. The other one was a little better, but I'd rather have, in my eyes, quantity over quality.
Right.
That make it seem like you're getting your money's worth. But I mean, overall, I liked it. Plus, I liked how they did old school, where they ran credits and they thanked people and who the producers were and this and this. Overall, I'd probably give it maybe a 6.5 or 7 out of 10, being that it wasn't, we're highlighting our big stars. This is just a hometown, local promotion, but you have to start somewhere.
Right. I would agree. And it looks like next week those big stars will be out.
Yeah.
As the second episode from this same night would come through, right? Which includes the Southern Six.
Yep.
And I think your score is bang on. 6.5 to 7 out of 10 is what I would give it. I would tune back in and take a look at this again. I'm getting some thing about how I can't post comments to the chat. I wonder if I'm getting them. It's been quiet. It's been too quiet. There's lots of people watching, but I'm not seeing any of your comments if you're out there writing them right now. I hear Exodus Pro is gonna do come on to YouTube as well soon, and I'm sure we'll look at that. We'll sort of pare down what we like as the weeks goes on, but good effort for season 4 of JCP for episode 1. All right, let's finish this bad boy off like we always do, which is to say properly, the anchorman himself, Dave Scooby, fantasy booker. I respect you, Booker Man. When it comes to title changes, Dave, should small promotions like the NWA and UWN just give up kayfabe? Give us the backstory and tell us the answer.
Well, right now, I would say people will know about title changes, whether you want to or not. That unless you go on Twitter and block certain words and block phrases and hashtags, it's out there. You may find out about it unintentionally.
Yeah, like this one, right? Boop.
Yep. Or you may go looking for it.
Right.
But depending on what it is, I mean, it all depends on how you look at things. And the way I look at it, right now there's really no real kayfabe. That people know too much about what's behind the curtain. And to me, I used to read all the magazines and they were always behind. But then when you found stuff on the internet, you're like, oh, dirt sheets. Right. Oh, so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing that. Well, now that you've looked behind the curtain, I don't know. I feel as long as I don't see the actual match, if there's a title change and I don't see the actual match until it's put on television or put on some kind of platform, I feel that it's been spoiled in my eyes.
Okay.
Then I may look at it and go, oh, Ziggy's the new champion. he has the belt. Either he won it or he stole it. I may have to watch this.
Right.
That it's one of these things that either mentioning it or dropping hints, it may drum up business down the line for when you watch the actual match on TV or whatever platform it is. And it may bring viewers to a taped episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, unless you go and look for things when the NWA has a taping, I try to enjoy it when I'd go see them. Nowadays, I know people that go to the tapings, and I mean, hell, Jay Cal goes to the United Wrestling Network tapings, Championship Wrestling. I could be like, hey, Jay, can you give me spoilers? But I don't want them.
Right. Same.
Can you give me, hey, were there any surprises that I should be looking out for? Give me a hint. And all he would have to say is, oh, I don't know. Keep an eye out for Zicky Dice.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, now I have a vested interest on what's going to happen. He didn't spoil it for me. But I mean, nowadays wrestling, it's either TV or internet or streaming. And I mean, it's a show rather than an event. That if they're taping things or doing it live, it's a TV show. It's not a wrestling show. That they're doing it for the people watching, not in the crowd, but watching at home. You're enjoying it if you're there live, but it's one of these things of me personally. If I go and watch wrestling, I try to enjoy it. I'll take some pictures, but I try to enjoy it as much as I can without getting lost in taking pictures or videotaping it. I myself try not to look up spoilers so I can actually, I may know that, hey, there's a title change on the way, but I want to enjoy the feel of that title change.
Right.
And it's one of these things of wrestling can be an escape. And you just have to choose which way you go. I'm not going to spoil it and be like, it's still real to me, damn it. Like Dave, the original crying wrestling fan. It's still real to me, Dave.
Right.
I know Dave. And it's one of these things of back in the day, it was real to me.
Right.
Now I know it's a work, but I still enjoy suspended belief. I know that some of these moves that they do to each other, if it was done for real, you wouldn't be wrestling 20 minutes later. You wouldn't be walking, you'd be in the hospital. But it's one of these things that when it comes to title changes, make it mean something. And that's the only thing that I'm worried about with the NWA. I know there's going to have to be title changes, and if they're not doing pay-per-views or signature live events that are on Fight TV or being paid for somehow, that if you're just doing recordings of events and then using that as TV, I'm going to have to suspend my belief and just put my trust in the NWA, MLW, United Wrestling Network, any other type of wrestling that I may enjoy watching. I just have to put my trust in them.
Right.
So it's one of these things of, I don't believe that kayfabe up to a certain point can still exist, but you have to make it exist, at least for those half hour, 45 minutes, hour, whenever you watch. Just relax and enjoy the show. Don't get so into it that it makes you upset, but they're doing a good job. If it makes you upset, if it makes you feel emotion, then they're doing their job.
Right.
But I mean, for me, kayfabe, if you're able to believe in kayfabe and use it to your advantage, just let it happen.
I think it's a great perspective.
I mean, just let it happen. It's nothing against. I mean, everything has changed. Wrestling has changed. All sports have changed. That if you look back, I'm not even sure how old the WNBA is, but people talk about, oh, well, people don't watch the WNBA. Well, it's basketball. If you enjoy basketball, you'll watch whatever basketball is available. But you have high school, college, semi-pro, pro, men, women. I mean, they even have, I mean, they have what, the 3-on-3 championship street ball stuff now.
Right.
So it's one of these things of whatever you enjoy watching, watch it and enjoy it, but nothing is sacred. There's been a lot of change in sports and wrestling / sports entertainment over the last 40 to 50 years. So we just have to deal with it. And I just say, enjoy what you like and just deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a great perspective, man. I think there's ways to your to what you're saying, like as well, to use like social media and title changes to get more views to your product, right? And maybe that's what UWN was going for. They're just like, hey, Zicky Dice just won the TV title. And maybe that makes people go, oh, really, Zicky won it? Rather than us find that out 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, or whenever that match comes out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you either look forward to seeing that match, or you're like, well, I got to see what happens. Or you don't even have to say he won. It just show Zicky Dice with the TV title, and it's like, hey, look what I got, and just have him walk off.
Right.
And then whoever he's talking to, you just have you have your announcer go, well, that was Zicky Dice. He was holding on to the TV championship. Wonder why. Guess we'll have to find out in a couple weeks, or we'll find out next week. Make sure to tune in. Bam.
Yep.
But I mean, it's one of these things that they're choosing to do it. It's a booking decision that's between Daniel, the wrestlers, Dave, the owner. So that's their call. If I want wrestling done a certain way, then that means I have to either find it or start my own promotion.
That's right.
So
there you have it.
Back and enjoy.
Dave, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Let's get out of here. It's been 2 hours. I had to split this up into two. Tell us where you can find you on social media.
You can find me at Dave Scooby on Twitter X and Instagram, and at Dave Scooby followed by the number 1 over on TikTok.
Jeremy's on X at HJWOTS, and he's on Threads. He's the only one there, by the way. Championship Wrestling, Jeremy. I'm everywhere at the Alliance Gold, trying to get back into it. Doing a pretty good job the last week or so, putting some content up. And then collectively, we're on Twitter or X at TOEG live stream, TOAG live stream. Please follow us there. It's so hard to build a channel an account from the ground up. We appreciate you guys. Most importantly, alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information on the NWA, UWN, MLW, and more. Gets updated all the time, guys. Go take a look. Chris Flackett's on there. Lamb is on there. J Cal's updating it. I'm supposed to be, but I'm not because I'm a lazy person. And they're on all the social media platforms at the Alliance blog. Jay gives us this platform and lets us do whatever we want here. And we really appreciate him for it. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Jay's back with the other Alliance guys. That's DKM and Jaden to generally run down what's happening in the NWA. Not run down the NWA, but run down what's happening in the NWA. And other wrestling news that is going on as well. And then Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. It's the pre-party, which is sometimes kind of joke is maybe the after party, since now it's moved. The show's moved. Power's moved to Tuesdays, and they're releasing in the morning. But yeah, that's what's up next. And then once again next week on this, UWN World Champion, Ironheart Pro Champion, Danny Limelight on this show. Super excited. You're gonna see me advertising everything. Matthew says TikTok, Dave. I'm gonna need to see some ID. I used to have TikTok. I used to.
Well, I can say it's
too good.
Not a lot of wrestling stuff on there. It's more sarcastic or dark humor. So
yeah. He's just joking around. He's a good guy. That's it. That's all. For Jeremy, we hope you feel better, and for Dave, that's it. That's the show. That's it. That's all. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.